Hello, my name is Ilona and today is Monday, February 20th, 2023 and it's new moon. It's also a super moon. So the energy is very intense. There is a lot of things going on about the moon. I think David Icke mentioned it. It's actually like a space station. It's artificial and it's purposely used by the dark energies to influence us. I'm not so sure if it was something else. There are also stories that it was actually something else and it was used actually for something good. Maybe even, I don't know, some DNA they placed in there. I'm not really certain. There's so many stories about the moon. I still use the moon because to me, I look at the psychological aspect of it and they are beautiful symbols of certain energies. And I have to say, I still feel the energy, even if I'm not aware. And I notice I am feeling very, very intense dreams I have. Then usually there's something with the moon. So I look at it, oh, it's new moon. Oh, it's full moon. So, of course, ultimately, if we are in full power, if we step fully in our own strength, then we really cannot be manipulated by energies outside of ourselves. So ultimately, I use astrology. I think these symbols are incredible. I see it as a psychological tool. It's the same way as I see the tarot cards. To me, they are psychological tools. Each card represents a certain energy, and that's what I use to tap in and to just see how it feels for me. I find that very interesting. And it's the same with astrology and the signs. I think we all have parts of all these signs in ourselves, but some are more on the forefront, some are more in the back. And ultimately, it's really about stepping fully into our own power. And of course, a certain horoscope can help you with that, can give you insight. But ultimately, when we are really into our own authority, nothing outside of ourselves can influence us. That's how I see things. So that's why I still mention the moon. Someone actually asked me about this, but the moon is something completely different. So I just wanted to see how mention how I see things. So to me, it's a symbol. Well, the card reading I did is actually about March 15 here in the Netherlands. But you can see it in a broader scope, I think. It has to do with voting. So it's time for us to vote. Doesn't really matter here in the Netherlands what we're voting for, because really I don't vote, because there are people asking me questions. Do you vote? Are you going to vote? And I'm not going to vote, and because it doesn't feel right to me. And to be very honest, I really don't care that much. The puppets are still there. So to me, it feels like the same energy, same old. But it's very interesting. I got cards just about what's going to happen with the 15th of March. And it was very interesting to see the cards. So I'm going to show them. And this is, of course, about the Netherlands. But maybe this is also about other votings as well. I think things are changing in a way. Well, we have the Page of Wands, which is, of course, Whitehead influences. We have the Four of Pentacles as the central card. We have the Four of Cups in the past. We have the Six of Wands underneath the Four of Pentacles. And we have the World card and the Queen of Wands for the future. So to me, this feels like the Whiteheads are using this. The dark energies are going to try to hold on to their control. So it's very likely not much is going to change. So the parties that are now in a government will still be like the biggest parties. But probably things will change a little bit. And they'll try to hold on. I actually also mentioned in my Dutch video, because people are asking me, should I vote, shouldn't I? And there are a lot of people talking about, well, you shouldn't vote, you shouldn't, cooperate with the system, because if you're voting, then automatically you agree with everything that's going on. That's not how I view things. I see it a little bit differently. First of all, I actually saw it that way. Yeah, don't work with the system, don't cooperate in any way. But I thought it was interesting. I had this, some insight, and of course see if it resonates with you, that of course in America, Mr. T became president because there was this humongous wave of people voting for him, and they did not expect that. So of course they manipulated things, but it wasn't enough. And this in a way happened also in 2022 in America. There's still things in Arizona, and of course the Republicans won the House of Representatives. If no one would have showed up in 2022 for the Republicans, then it most likely would have still been a Democratic House of Representatives. And in that case, we would have missed a lot. Just look at what's going on there now with the Twitter files, with all these committees, with things are being looked at. So I cannot completely say that voting is a waste of time. Of course, we cannot compare the American system to the Dutch systems. What we do know that a lot of things are possible with the Dutch system with manipulating as well. We also have a lot of parties, so that's different than the American system. So in a way, maybe it is different, but I have to say, especially with this, I have a feeling that the white hats are moving along, and maybe they will use it ultimately. So at the day itself, and I think we're probably going to get again that the bigger parties are still the biggest. Maybe they'll lose a little bit, make it look a little bit real, but ultimately not much is going to change or happen in that. But that the white hats will use it, or things will come out afterwards that some things didn't work out very well. They are losing the narrative. And you can see that also, of course, in America. A lot more is coming out since 2022, also because of Twitter. People, it's not being suppressed anymore. It's not taken away anymore. So people are sharing it. Things are changing in the media, especially in America, about that. So it's also a possibility these things will change here in the Netherlands as well, especially with the world and the Queen of Wands. So I can't say for certain, but it wouldn't surprise me if some things will come out later about the voting, about something's going wrong and what's happening here. So there'll be more attention towards that. But ultimately, they're going to try to hold on to what they've got. They're going to manipulate. And it's really up to each and every one of us to decide whether we want to vote or not. Like I've mentioned, I'm not going to vote. I don't feel anything with this. So I'm not going to do it. But I'm not going to say other people shouldn't be doing it. I think that decide for yourself if it feels right for you to vote or not, and feel really inside of yourself. I'm not completely convinced that just because you vote, you immediately agree with everything, because it's about your energy. Your energy decides what you agree with. So if you bring this vote with the energy of I'm just going to agree to this and not to anything else, that will be part of the collective energy. So it could change things. I also have this insight last week about that, there are a lot of people talking about stepping out of the system, not joining the system. But we are brought here on purpose to change the system from the inside out. We incarnated here, and there are star seeds that incarnated specifically to break it from the inside out. Because if they didn't have to do that, they could have just stayed on their starships and changed things from the outside. But this is a free will zone. So we had to get in here. And Dolores Cannon also mentions these waves of volunteers. She has a very interesting book about that. Came in to change it from the inside out. Because ultimately our task is to blow up things from the inside out. And if you look at America, especially politician-wise, you see that things are falling apart. So I'm not so sure if it's not possible to change the system from the inside out anymore. They are losing their narratives. They are losing control. I do believe like 10 years or 20 years ago, it was pretty much impossible to change anything. But I think they're losing control now. So there are a lot more options, which is of course helped because of all the people coming in and changing their energies, bringing different energies. It's already been going on for quite some time, the changing of the frequency. So you can be in a system, but if you work with your energy, your frequency, you're not going to be part of it, even though if you're maybe sitting in the middle of it. It's very interesting. It's about the frequencies. That's really the bottom line. That's why shadow work and working with your consciousness is so important, because that's where it happens. You can actually live in the middle of nowhere and still be angry about things, and in a way still maintaining the system from outside. That's a possibility as well, especially when you're fighting against the system. You're still keeping it in place. But if you are stepping fully into your power and you're somewhere and you feel comfortable there, very important. If you're somewhere working somewhere and you're like, this is not the energy, this feels awful, then it's time for you to let go and to go somewhere else. People are also getting together with different initiatives for education, nature, food. Things are changing already because people are changing and taking different paths. That's also destroying the system in a way, because you're creating new systems. But you are capable, even at local level, what's happening in America as well, that people come in that had nothing to do with the dark energies, manage to get elected, at least, in a certain place, in a certain position, and they do change things. So I'm not going to be completely against that it's not possible to blow up the system from inside out, because that's really our task. That's how we came in here, to blow up the system from the inside out. So I do think it's possible. And like I've said, they're losing their power. They're losing their momentum to keep us under control. The frequencies are changing. We are raising our frequencies, so they won't be able to manipulate us anymore, and we'll be able to start manifesting and changing things in a different direction. I also think that the political system and all these systems are going to collapse. We'll need a new system. So it wouldn't surprise me if we're going to have this changing time where from working with what's at that moment we have political, will change things into a completely different direction. So we'll be voting for policies instead of politicians and political parties. That's at least how I view things. So I'm not going to suggest people not to vote. That's just not me. I'm not going to vote, but really feel for yourself if it feels right for you or not. If not, then just leave it for what it is and don't do anything with it. But I do believe now, especially I just felt suddenly like, yeah, but this is what we're supposed to be doing here, breaking the system from the inside out. If that wasn't necessary, we wouldn't be here. At least a lot of starseeds wouldn't be here. There are a lot of starseeds who came here for the first time on Earth to change this system and bringing new energies. And they're very confused, obviously, because they're in a system that they are not familiar with. And of course, they're older souls that have been here quite some time and understand the system, but know that they have to raise their vibration, and it has to do with healing, soul contracts. So that's what we're doing, breaking it from the inside out. I also mentioned something here that happened on the Dutch television. We have money for Turkey, and it's a certain organization, and they always use this number. And it's pretty much connected with dark energies. And we, of course, have people in the media, and they are called Ongehoord Nederland. And they mention a lot of truths. And a lot of people, a lot of political parties want them removed from the media, from the Dutch media. And they participated in raising money. And there were a lot of people here who were angry and were like, you see, they're horrible, they're working with the system. And I actually look at it differently. It's very possible that they are working for the system. They are in the system. But to me, it feels like they have a voice there. They reach a completely different audience that is separate from the independent media. The people that are watching, independent media are not interested in what's going on in the mainstream media. And there's an enormous group of people that still watch the mainstream media and are not completely interested in the independent media. So they are reaching that people, the people that are just watching the Dutch television. And they are reaching quite a lot of people. So it wouldn't surprise me, but that's how I see things, and I could be very wrong, that they said to themselves, okay, we're going to cooperate here, because if we don't, and it was like a collaboration of all these people working in media. So if they would have, not cooperated, that would have probably been the end of them for working at the media. They would have immediately be thrown off the Dutch television. And you have to understand there are a lot of people here in the Netherlands that are wanting to help, all the suffering in Turkey, the horrible things, and then they would be like, yeah, we're not going to cooperate with that. They would have gotten the entire Netherlands, or the people that are watching that, they would have just spit them out. So I see it as a tactical movement that they actually cooperated, and maybe they do agree with it. I'm not so sure about that. But now they still have a voice. And maybe later along the line, that's just something I came up with, who knows, they might start looking at what happened to that money and what happened with all these organizations, and did it end up where it should have ended up. That would be pretty brilliant in my idea. So we don't know, of course, if that's going to happen or not, but things need to come out, and then you need something to reach this entire group of people that are not really researching anything and just still living their lives, and they are a way in. So sometimes, just like when we entered here, a lot of us, we knew on soul level that we've made a decision to come here to step into this energy, this dark system. We knew on soul level that we would have been sold by the age of 17, missing at sea and things like that. We knew that we would, in a way, essentially agree to that by coming here. But we knew that if we got in, we were capable of changing it from the inside out. So sometimes you have to take certain steps to create something else. Just like Mr. T. He's not mentioning everything, but there's a chess game going on. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's also happening in medias around the world. People have to kind of navigate to manage to reach a certain people. But of course, again, this is how I view things. See if it resonates with you. I'd like to leave it at this and hope to see you in another video. Bye.